Nobody wanted the alien twins, until one human changed everything. I never planned to become a father again. Some doors close and you learn to stop reaching for the handle. That is what I told myself every morning when I woke up alone on my ship, staring at a crayon drawing taped to the console, a yellow sun with a smiley face. My daughter Ellie drew it 3 days before she died. She was 4 years old. That was 6 years ago, and I still could not bring myself to take it down. My name is Marcus Cole. I am a cargo hauler. I fly a beat-up freighter called the Driftwood through the outer trade corridors of the Galactic Compact, delivering medical supplies, machine parts, and whatever else pays enough to keep the fuel tanks full. Humans have been part of the galactic community for about 80 years now. We are tolerated. We are not respected. Most alien species think of us the way you might think of a stray dog that wandered into a dinner party. Loud, messy, too emotional, and likely to chew on something important. I had made peace with that. I did not care about galactic politics. I cared about getting paid and not thinking too much. Then I docked at Voss Station. Voss is a transit hub on the edge of compact space, half trading post, half refugee processing center. It smells like recycled air and bureaucratic despair. I was there to drop off a shipment of surgical supplies and collect my fee from the station administrator, a 7-foot-tall Torvan named Assessor Drin. He had 4 arms, a voice like gravel in a tin can, and the emotional warmth of a filing cabinet. While Drin processed my payment, I heard something through the wall, a child crying, not the ordinary kind. This was the sound of something small and terrified that had been crying for so long it had forgotten how to stop. It went right through me, right through the metal and the noise and the 6 years of walls I had built around myself. I asked Drin about it. He barely looked up. Velith juveniles, he said. Pending custodial resolution. I asked what that meant. He explained it to me, the way someone might read ingredients off a cereal box. 2 children, twins, 6 years old. Their species, the Velith, had been declared biologically non-viable after their homeworld suffered an ecological collapse. Fewer than 11,000 of them remained. These 2 were orphans. Their parents had not survived the evacuation. But that was not the worst part. The Velith are what the Compact calls a Class 9 empathic species. Their skin changes color based on their emotions, and they project those emotions outward. Anyone standing near them feels what they feel. For most galactic species, this is deeply unpleasant. Imagine someone pouring their grief directly into your nervous system, without warning or filter. Every species that had tried to care for the twins had walked away within minutes. The children had been placed with 41 different potential guardians from 41 different species. Every single one had declined. The boy, Kale, had stopped speaking entirely. He communicated through touch and empathic pulses that most species experienced as painful noise inside their heads. The girl, Leary, had become fiercely protective of her brother. She had scratched and bitten every caretaker who tried to separate them. So the Compact had come up with a solution. They were going to freeze the children. Cryogenic custodial storage, they called it. The twins would be put into frozen sleep and placed in a storage facility on some administrative moon. Theoretically, they would be revived when circumstances changed. But Drin admitted, quietly and off the record, that no one had ever actually been brought back from custodial storage. I looked at him. So it is a death sentence with extra steps. He paused for a long time. Then he said, "It is a bureaucratically compliant resolution. I asked to see the children." He warned me that the empathic projection would be painful for a human. Our brains are wired to absorb the emotions of others. He said it would cause headaches, nausea, maybe worse. He strongly advised against it. I told him I had experienced worse. The holding ward was at the end of a long, gray corridor. When the door opened, I saw them. 2 small figures in a bare, white room. No toys, no blankets, just a thermal pad on the floor. Leary was standing in front of Kale with her teeth bared, her skin flashing between deep purple and bright red, terror and anger. Kale was curled behind her in a ball, his skin a flat, pale gray. I learned later that gray meant total emotional shutdown. He had simply stopped feeling, because feeling had become too painful. The moment I stepped inside, the wave hit me. It was not like a headache. It was like falling into deep water made of someone else's sadness. My eyes blurred. My chest tightened. I saw flashes of things I had never experienced. Fire, screaming, The sky turning the wrong color. These were their memories, projected outward because they had no other way to say what had happened to them. Every previous visitor had turned around and walked out at this point. Every single one. I sat down on the floor. I did not move toward them. I did not speak. I just sat there and breathed. I used the same technique I had learned as a combat medic years ago, when people were in terrible pain under my hands, and the only thing I could do was stay calm and stay present. 20 minutes passed. Leary stared at me the entire time. Her skin flickered through colors I did not have names for. She was confused. She was waiting for me to leave like everyone else. I pulled a ration bar from my jacket pocket. I broke it in half. I set both pieces on the floor between us. Then I slid them forward with one finger and waited. Leary watched me for a long time. Then she crept forward, picked up one piece, and sniffed it. She ate it slowly. Then she took the second piece and brought it to Cale. He would not eat it first. She pressed it gently against his mouth, and he finally took a small bite. I did not make a decision in that moment. That is not the right word for what happened. There was simply a thing I was going to do, and the rest of the galaxy was going to have to deal with it. I filed a guardianship petition the next morning. The system rejected it before I finished my coffee. The reasons were listed in clean, official language. Humans were not on the approved guardian species list for Velith children. I had no fixed planetary residence. My psychological profile flagged unresolved grief and risk-seeking behavior. The Velith Remnant Council had not authorized cross-species adoption, and the Compact's child welfare algorithm rated human Velith compatibility at 2.1%, the lowest score ever recorded for any species pairing. Drin told me, not unkindly, that the cryogenic order would be carried out in 72 hours. I had 3 days. So I did what humans do when someone tells us something is impossible. I got to work. I spent the first night digging through compact adoption law until my eyes ached. Somewhere around 3 in the morning, I found it. Article 17, Section 9 of the original Human Integration Treaty. A clause that granted humans the right to petition for guardianship of any minor of any species in cases where no other qualified guardian could be identified and the child's life was at demonstrable risk. It had been included as a throwaway line, a diplomatic courtesy. No one had ever imagined a human would actually use it. I contacted a human rights attorney on Earth named Priya Okonkwo. She worked pro bono on interspecies cases. When I explained the situation, she went quiet for 10 seconds, and then said a word I will not repeat. She agreed to represent me, but the legal fight was only half of what I did in those 3 days. The other half was simpler and, I think, more important. I went back to the holding ward. Every single day, multiple times a day, I brought food. I brought a blanket from my ship. I sat on the floor and told them stories about Earth. I told them about oceans and rain, and how dogs wag their tails when they are happy. I told them about ice cream. I hummed songs my mother used to hum to me. I never tried to touch them. I let them come to me. On the second day, Leary sat closer. Her skin had shifted to a soft blue-green. Curiosity. She reached out and touched my hand, and her empathic pulse rolled through me. She was testing me, looking for the flinch, the disgust, the rejection she had felt from every other being who had ever entered that room. What she found instead was grief. Old, deep, human grief that I had carried for 6 years, and underneath it, something else. Warmth. The kind of irrational, unexplainable warmth that a human being can feel for 2 children he has known for less than 48 hours. Her skin changed to a color I had never seen before, a soft, luminous gold. I found out later that gold is the Velith color for safe. On the morning of the 3rd day, Cale spoke. His first word in 4 months. It was in Velith, and I could not understand it. Leary typed the translation into a borrowed communication pad. She held it up for me to read. He says you feel like the sun. I had to leave the room after that. I did not want the children to see me cry. The 72 hours ran out. Priya invoked Article 17, and the case went before a compact arbitration tribunal. 3 judges from 3 different species, in a chamber designed to make you feel small. I was already the smallest person in the room by a wide margin. The prosecution made their case. Humans are biologically incompatible with Velith children. The empathic exposure would cause long-term neurological damage to the guardian. The children required species-specific care that humans could not provide. The cryogenic option preserved the children's lives without risk. My petition was sentimental, irrational, and not in the children's best interest. Priya took them apart. She presented research from human psychologists, neuroscientists, and xenobiologists. She showed that humans are one of the only known species with measurable empathic resilience, the ability to absorb another being's emotional states without shutting down or pushing them away. She argued that what the compact called human emotional instability was actually emotional range, and that humans possess the widest emotional range of any species in the compact. She said, "You call it a defect. We call it the reason we run into burning buildings." Then it was my turn. I did not give a speech. I told the tribunal 3 things. First, 41 species had been asked to take these children, and all 41 had said no. Second, the children had been alone, terrified, and in pain for months, and not one representative of the galactic community had simply sat with them. Third, I was not asking anyone to believe I was the best option. I was asking them to look at the only other option and tell me, honestly, that freezing 2 6-year-olds alive was better. The tribunal asked me to demonstrate my interaction with the children. They expected it to prove their point. They expected the empathic backlash to overwhelm me. Kale and Leary were brought into the chamber inside a containment field. The moment they saw me, something happened that the tribunal did not expect. The twins pushed through the containment barrier. This should have been impossible for children their age, but the Velith empathic bond grows stronger near people they trust. Kale ran to me and grabbed my leg. Leary took my hand. Their skin glowed gold, and then the empathic wave filled the entire chamber. Every being in that room felt it. Not the screaming grief from before. Something entirely different. Safety. Trust. The first fragile, trembling warmth of something that might, if given the chance, become love. The chamber fell silent. One of the judges, a Thessari who had served on the tribunal for 200 years, spoke in a voice so quiet I almost missed it. She said she had never felt anything like that from a child welfare case in her entire career. She said she had never felt anything like that at all. She voted to grant guardianship. The final vote was 2-1. I carried Kale onto the driftwood that evening. Leary walked beside me, holding my hand. I showed them the ship. It is small and battered and held together with stubbornness, much like its captain. I showed them the sleeping area I had set up in the cargo bay, with blankets and pillows I had bought from the station market. I had hung a string of small lights along the ceiling, because I had read that Velith children feel safer with ambient light. Leary touched the blankets. She looked at me, and her skin cycled through 6 colors in 3 seconds. Too many emotions to name. She typed into the communication pad, "Is this ours?" I said, "Yeah, kid, this is yours." Kale wandered to the cockpit, and found the crayon drawing taped to the console. Ellie's son with the smiley face. He pointed at it, and I felt my throat tighten. I told him that someone I loved had made that drawing a long time ago. He reached up and placed his small hand flat against the paper. His skin shifted to the color of a sunrise, warm gold fading into pale pink. Then he looked at me and said, in broken but clear universal standard, "She would be glad that you are not alone." I have been asked many times since then why I did it, what made me qualified, what I thought I could possibly offer that the entire galactic community could not. For a long time, I did not have a good answer. I think I do now. I could love them. That is it. That is the whole thing. Not smarter, not stronger, not better equipped. I could just love them without needing a reason, without running an algorithm, without checking a compatibility chart. I could sit on a cold floor with 2 terrified children and simply stay. It turns out that in a galaxy full of ancient civilizations, with technology that can reshape stars, that was the one thing nobody else thought to try.